Welcome to the show that teaches you the things your parents and teachers are too afraid to. The Helios blog. Today, Piers Morgan has a heated debate, and guess what it's related to? Iran attacking Israel. Crazy.
The reason she's alone is because she's difficult.
Women are not accepting the bare minimum.
Women fuck men they respect.
All the women who say things like, I'm strong, independent, I don't need no man, like, y'all impress me.
Women just gaslight each other and say what they want to hear.
With Iran and Israel, and of course, what's still going on in Gaza. Passions are running high on both sides. So I brought people from both sides together today to have a free and frank and fearless conversation about exactly what is going on right now. So I've been joined by the comedian and podcaster Dave Smith. First time we've met in person. Great to see you, Dave.
Very nice to meet you.
The conservative commentator Deborah Lee. Great to see you. The Palestinian-American activist Nadine Kiswani. Good to see you back, Nadine. And joining us remotely from Los Angeles is Elika Lebon, who's an Iranian, British, American activist and lawyer, and it's the front page of the New York Post today after a very powerful video that you put on social media, which has really captured people's attention, in which you lambast people for only now waking up to what has been going on in Iran. So welcome to all of you. Dave, let me start with you. A lot of stuff has been going on in the last few days, and at the center of it is the fact that Israel attacked a consulate that belongs to Iran in Syria, killing some military leaders from Iran. And Iran, having signaled it would do this, responded with tremendous force, but also uniquely, directly at Israel from Iran, which we haven't seen before. Some people think this was just theatre, that they warned people deliberately so that this would just be something that would be for maybe for the domestic audience at home. Others think it actually signals a real escalation here, and we might be teetering, if we're not careful, on a major war in the region. What's your take on this?
Well, okay, there's no question that there is a threat of a wider war in the region, and that's been true long before these missiles went off. That's really been true since October 7th.
Well, I mean, if we know anything about the Second World War, we know that it's kind of been like insanity for a long time now. Long time.
You have a lot of dynamics with the Houthis, Hezbollah, and of course Iran. This was clearly theater. I mean, they gave 72 hours warning. This was very similar to after Trump assassinated Soleimani, and they sent that missile at the American base. Didn't kill anybody. It did not seem like they were trying to. Iran has even come out and said after this, we're done. We responded. They felt, I think they needed to save face to their own domestic population. And one of the best things that Donald Trump ever did in his presidency was after that response from Iran, he said, fine, you can have the last word. We took out the person we wanted to take out. We didn't lose any of our people. Biden clearly has signaled that he doesn't want Israel to respond to this. Israel would be insane to respond to Iran, as they've claimed they're going to do.
Why would they be insane?
Because
it would lead to a further escalation, I believe, is what the implication is.
Listen, at this point, Israel has lost much of the world over this war, and they'd basically be waving the finger at the U.S. To do this. They'd be risking a wider war. Joe Biden has signaled that they'd have to go at it alone, that he's not going to back them up on any offensive attack against Iran. Every pro-Israeli person that I've ever met has always talked about the peril of Israel, that we're this tiny little country surrounded by all of these hostile nations, and there's so much anti-Semitism in the world. If that's the case, why would you intentionally try to make this a broader regional war?
Okay, Deborah, why?
I think that it's extremely important for a sovereign country to defend themselves. 300 ballistic missiles, if that was sent to any other country, the United States, where I'm a resident and I'm a citizen, only a citizen of the United States, if we received 300 ballistic missiles overnight, even if it took 10 hours, 3 days to get here, that country would cease to exist. And it's only a question of sovereignty when it comes to Israel, which in and of itself is an anti-Israel ideology that, oh, why should Israel be able to defend themselves? I do not want a bigger war. I do not want it to get bigger. I don't want more people dying. I want this war to come to an end as fast as possible. But
sounds like goal stuff.
think that this can't be the norm, that, oh, you can just send ballistic missiles at Israel, hundreds, and nothing happens. You can just get away with it. I think deterrence is the most powerful tool we have in the Middle East, and that terror groups only listen to force. They don't listen to peaceful negotiations.
Some would argue that the ultimate deterrent here was that Iran fired off 300 missiles and absolutely nothing, apart from one or two apparently, landed anywhere near Israel. One little girl was badly injured, which is appalling. But in terms of what they were trying to do, perhaps, with these missiles and what actually happened, it was a failure. So wasn't it proof that actually, unlike October the 7th, Israel's defences held up very well? And wasn't it also extremely pertinent to this that you had Jordan racing to help them, you had Saudi Arabia racing to help them, you had the UK, you had France and other countries. I mean, there was a big coalition immediately helping Israel to repel these missiles. Isn't that in itself a pretty clear deterrent that you can try, but you're not going to get anywhere?
I mean, I think it was great to see the countries come together in defense of Israel, but this is more of a testament to the Iron Dome than anything else. Thank God for the Iron Dome. It is amazing technology. It protected millions.
Sounds like a paid agent to me. But again, you let me know in the comments what you think.
Of lives. If this did not exist, these rockets could have fallen. They don't know if it's falling on an Arab family, a Jewish family, a Druze family. They just want to kill.
I mean, I can see she's got the Star of David necklace, but okay. Anyway, let's continue.
People, and thank God that Israel was able to defend themselves.
What do you think Israel should do?
I mean, right now, I think they need to do something. I'm not a military advisor, but I think something along the lines that says, you cannot mess with us. We are a sovereign country. You can't send 300 ballistic missiles.
So what does that look like, though?
And get away. I think that would either be a threat of force, or I think threatening is rightfully so right now. That would be the first step, saying, hey, you do this again, or we're going to weaponize, we're going to get ready to come for you. You don't touch us. We will destroy you. We will blow your regime off the map.
This is a little bit extreme, doesn't it seem so? Does it seem so to anybody else? Or is it just me? This girl got on Piers Morgan? She sounds like, I don't know, like hysterical. Like, this is like the stereotype of like why you don't hire women, right? Anyway, for this kind of job.
And
Can I just ask, I mean, if we're talking about the principle of a sovereign country, is Iran a sovereign country? Is Syria a sovereign country? Because Israel bombs Syria every couple months with impunity.
Okay, that in and of itself is not true. But Israel,
that's a fact. Israel bombs Syria whenever they feel like it.
Of terrorism, they support it.
So they're not a.
They support Hamas. They support
no
Hezbollah.
evidence. No evidence has been
that they supported October 7th.
That has nothing to do with their sovereignty.
Listen, it is a separate
attack, and that this is
okay.
a
But
response.
you brought up the issue of a sovereign country,
Yes.
and then as soon as I ask the question, we're pivoting to other things. First of all, our CIA has said that they believe the Iranians were shocked on October 7th. So there's no evidence has been provided that they were in on this.
Israel. It's the Islamic regime and the Islamic Republic that does not. Well, that's part of it, but the Islamic Republic has made life a living hell for Iranians. For many years, Iranian Jews lived there. There was a growing
okay. I'm
Jewish
sorry. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, nobody's
Iranian
arguing.
people don't support
I'm not arguing that Iran is not a repressive government. That's not my argument. But you're making the case that there's the argument is a sovereign country, and so that's why Israel is in defense of this. I'm just saying, is Syria a sovereign country? Because as you noted, Piers, that's where this started.
Well, let me bring in Nadine here. We've had some fiery debates before about what's happening in Gaza, but on this, do you have any defense for what is happening in terms of what Iran did?
I mean, I agree with your framing. I think that the ultimate message of deterrence was sent by Iran. It was ultimately their embassy, their sovereignty that was attacked at first. They actually had 2 people that were killed by these missiles that Israel sent, and they didn't kill anyone. You know, just as the Yemeni people who have been seizing these ships are sending a message that, you know, let in humanitarian aid and we'll let these ships pass through. It's not about killing people. It's
why should Israel just accept people firing rockets at them?
Well, why should anyone accept Israel firing rockets?
Well, we'll come to that part of the debate in a minute, but why should Israel ever accept people firing rockets at them? Whether it's the Houthis, whether it's Hezbollah, whether it's Hamas, whether it's Iran, why should they just in principle? They are, I mean, you put it right there, they are a tiny country surrounded by, I mean, I once interviewed Netanyahu in Jerusalem, and he took me to a map behind his desk, and it was quite a powerful thing he did. performative but powerful. He said, watch, and he put his hand on Saudi Arabia, he put his hand on Iran, his hand on Egypt. He went round all the big countries bordering Israel, and then he took his thumb and he went, watch, and he put his little thumb where Israel was, surrounded by these huge handprint countries. People in Israel feel pretty vulnerable because of that, and they feel vulnerable because they're constantly being attacked. Now, I will come to the other part of that, which is how they responded to October the 7th. I will do that with you. But just on this alone, if a country like Iran decides to fire 300 missiles at you, what are you supposed to do as a country?
I mean, the Israelis are clearly trying to bring in the U.S. to a broader regional war. This is what their MO was from the beginning.
That wasn't the question I asked you.
I think that's what they were trying to do, though.
No, I'm asking you, what should Israel do in response to what happened to them? What's the correct response for any country if you're hit with 300 missiles?
I think they need to understand that the world is growing tired, angry, and frustrated.
Man, this is just propaganda and pivot, right? Where did I hear it? It's like, in politics, you don't answer the question that you're asked. You answer the question that you wanted the audience to ask, and you respond to that. Not that you wanted the audience to ask. The question that whose answer you want the audience to hear. Like that.
With the countless deaths that we're seeing happening in Gaza, tens and tens of thousands of people, so many children, people are starving to death, people are freezing to death. They need to understand that the world is angry and they need to put an end to
But that had nothing to do with why Iran launched 300 missiles at Israel. It was nothing to do with what happened in Gaza, except that Israel would say they attacked the consulate in Syria as an attack on people that they believed were collaborating with Hamas over October the 7th.
So it does have to do with it.
It does, but that wasn't the main focus. Was a revenge attack for what happened at the consulate.
You know, I think
it wasn't about actually what's going on in Gaza.
You know, I don't think that there is really anything left to debate here, aside from the fact that there is a
She's mad.
genocide going on. It's been going on for 6 months. Israel is a rogue state, just as Nazi Germany, just as apartheid South Africa was, and it needs to be reined in.
Just be honest. You want us to take it. You want us to all die to these missiles. That's the honest answer that you're avoiding here. If you can't say it is wrong for a country to send 300 ballistic missiles to innocent civilians, I could say that the reverse way.
Can you say it was wrong for Israel to put Gaza under siege and blockade for the better part of the last 2 decades, for them to murder 40,000 people, for them to murder 15,000 children?
Okay, your numbers are coming from Hamas.
Lordy Lord. Here we go.
What about 1948, 750,000
controlled by Hamas? Why is it not on Hamas to free the Palestinian people?
All right, let me bring in Elika, who's trying to get in here. Elika, you are the only actual Iranian amongst us. You were born there. So what is your response to what you've heard so far?
Well, I'm really frustrated with the complete distortion of the narrative. Like you're talking about these strikes in Syria, first of all, not being on an Iranian embassy. So let's just get our facts straight. It was on a military base that was next to the embassy. Why is the military base there? Why is the Islamic Republic making Syria vulnerable to these attacks? You want to talk about bombs on Syria? Guess who's doing that? Guess who's doing that? It's the Islamic Republic by using other countries as a base, so it makes Syrian people vulnerable to that. So let's not just act like there's strikes on there for no reason. Second of all, you talk about civilians, or people were actually killed in that strike.
It feels so great to hear somebody using logic and reason, or at least to me it sounds like logic and reason. Perhaps I'm just being, jerked around. But it sounds to me like logic and reason.
Which targeted senior IRGC leaders who are meeting with Hezbollah. Meeting with Hezbollah to do what exactly? Because let's just talk about what's been happening for the past 6 months, much less the past 4 decades, which is that we have seen October 7th, okay, which was an act of war. Let's be clear. Let's dispel this narrative that there's no evidence that the Islamic Republic supported that. It's been reported over and again. It was reported in the Wall Street Journal.
It was asserted in the Wall Street Journal.
Republic, no, let me finish. I'm not done. What do you think that the Islamic Republic is training, sponsoring, funding its proxies for? What do you think they are funding its proxies for in Israel, in Gaza, in Yemen, in Lebanon, and all of that to strike Israel on October 7th, every single day since October 7th.
Sorry, I'm getting confused. She's just throwing so much information.
Firing rockets into Israel, and then when there is a strike on IRGC leaders planning a meeting with Hezbollah to further attack Israel, you want to turn around and say, oh, people were killed. Guess who was killed? The people that were killed are the people when the Islamic Republic struck Israeli embassies in different countries, actual civilians, okay? Not military senior personnel. And guess who else would have been killed if it wasn't for the Iron Dome? 300 rockets, you're talking about hundreds and thousands of deaths. So you're relying on the fact that there was an Iron Dome to protect the fact like, oh, well, nothing really happened. A lot happened, and a lot would have happened if Israel didn't have to invest so much into protecting its civilians, and you can't rely on that as a defense. And not only that, let's go back to talk about when you talk about that the strike on Soleimani, and you say, oh, well, nothing really happened. They just did a small retaliatory whatever. That's not the case. They actually, let's talk about Flight 752, when they shot down a plane from Tehran going to Ukraine, killing many, many, many innocent people on that plane. Because you know what the Islamic Republic does? It takes it out on its own people. That's what they do, and that's what they're doing right now. They're cracking down on Iranian women in the streets to show that they're the big bad wolf, because they know that they don't want any smoke with Israel, but they want to remind you who they are. And guess who they're taking it out on the Iranian people. And this is where we draw the line. We draw the line at this vocal support for the Islamic Republic being framed as the victim in this story that they have been orchestrating for decades, orchestrating terrorism, regional stability for decades. You want to talk about the Houthis that are fighting for freedom? How dare you? How dare you not acknowledge what the Houthis are doing in Yemen? Do you listen to Yemenis and their voices and what they have to say? They are being terrorized. They are being starved. They are being killed. A young Arabic woman is on death row right now in Yemen for criticizing the Houthis. Are you speaking about their rights when you talk about Yemeni people fighting for freedom in the Red Sea? How are you going to call freedom takers freedom fighters?
Okay, well, that's a good... Oh, Elika, let me just jump in. I want to bring in the others, because you've raised some very interesting points there. Dave, you were bristling at some of it, though. What?
Well, look, I just think we have to have one standard here. And this is kind of the point I was getting to with national sovereignty. Like, if we're going to talk about things, let's have one standard. If our concern is over what's been happening to the people in Yemen, as you said, what the Houthis are doing to them, do you know what's been happening to the people of Yemen over the last 8 years? It's been the #1 humanitarian crisis in the world, in the war that Saudi Arabia launched on them with full backing from the United States of America. Both Obama and Trump, through every day of his administration, we were refueling their fighter jets, okay? We were very implicated in that war. So, okay, if you care about horrible things happening to the people of Yemen, then you better be criticizing Saudi Arabia and the United States of America. This war just ended over in the last year. The 8 years previous to that were devastating.
That's a whataboutism.
No, it's not what about. No. Whataboutism is what.
Soviet-style whataboutism. My. Oh, this is savage.
Let me tell you
okay,
why.
hold on. I'm not finished. No. You said you weren't finished. No, you said you weren't finished before. I'm not finished now. Whataboutism is a word that people yell when you call them out on their hypocrisy. I'm saying let's have one standard.
I can explain to you why it's a whataboutism.
Whataboutism? What are we, teenagers? What does this word even mean?
I like that when somebody talks and tries to get their point across, I like I'm just going to totally ignore you and talk over you. That's very enjoyable as a debate tactic.
I'm putting this into historical context.
It to you so that you understand, okay? A whataboutism deflects from the issue that was presented. The issue that I presented to you, okay, it's a logical fallacy. What I presented to you was the fact that the Yemeni people do not support the Houthis. And you brought up, well, what about the fact that they don't support this and this? I didn't bring that into the equation.
By the way, I didn't. No, hold on. Let's just be clear here. No, let me explain so you understand.
Well, let me finish.
I'm not saying that.
Let me finish my sentence.
Okay, go ahead.
What I told you is that the Yemeni people have been vocal. If you would listen to their voices, you don't listen to their voices.
This is why you don't marry a lawyer, by the way.
Because the radical and extremist voices are the ones that are propped up, okay, by the algorithm, by the media, and the people on the ground that are telling you they don't support the Houthis.
Okay.
That's
All the
enough
people
listen,
I know support resistance.
Listen, I'm not, certainly, I don't know exactly. I'm open to the idea that there are a lot of people in Yemen who do not support the Houthis. I'm not defending the way the Houthis treat their people. I'm not defending the way the Iranian government treats their people. What I'm saying is that if we're going to not be hypocrites here, and we're criticizing them because we're concerned about how the people of Yemen are treated, where is this criticism for the much bigger disaster that's been caused in that country over the last 8 years? And if you want to talk in terms of how the people feel, it is as close to unanimous as you're going to get across the Muslim world that they are opposed to what Israel is doing to Gaza.
One of
and the idea that they wouldn't want the Houthis standing up to the Israelis.
Okay, hang on a sec.
It's not a zero-sum game.
Hang on a sec. On what Iran has done here, it's actually achieved what many think was almost impossible, is it's made people gravitate back to Israel. Right, it has brought people together with Israel because they thought, well, actually, look at this. 300 rockets launched from Iran, clearly presenting a massive threat to the people of Israel. Right at the moment when you're right, global support for Israel was beginning to fade away.
I think it's actually the enemy of the enemy is my friend. What if Iran was paid off to do this, and that's why they're not really aiming anywhere deadly serious? Because the whole purpose of the whole endeavor was just to get the people back on side. I wonder.
Pretty quickly.
Well,
So I would argue that what Iran has done here is a very self-defeating thing. If the desire was to try and continue to isolate Israel for what it's been doing in Gaza, then this is the worst thing that Iran could have done.
Listen, there might be something to that, and I'm not saying that this necessarily was a great strategic decision, but I don't think you're right about that. I mean, look, when you say that united people or pushed back toward Israel, I think what you're thinking about is the fact that all of these countries that you just pointed out all helped Israel defend themselves. But the truth is that it's not actually that shocking that Jordan and Saudi Arabia, and look, the Sunni Gulf states, Jordan's not a Gulf state, but these Sunni states here, they're American sock puppets. We buy them off for billions and billions of dollars and prop them up.
They do, but what the wider world sees, Dave, they just see Israel coming under attack from Iran, and they see two major Arab countries, Jordan and Saudi Arabia, racing to support their defense at a time when much of the Arab world is in rage about what has been happening in Gaza in terms of how Israel has executed its attack on Hamas in response to October the 7th. So, you know, I would agree with you. There's no doubt that support for Israel had been dissipating fast. But when I saw the reaction to what happened here, I was struck by two major Arab countries going, well, we know this is unpopular, what's happening in Gaza, but this is something we're going to support Israel on.
But I think you might be conflating the actions of governments with popularity amongst the people. I mean, I'm open to evidence on this, but I do not see any real realignment happening here. Look, Israel has, by the way they've been conducting this war and the brutality of it, they have been alienating more of the world than I've ever seen them alienate in my lifetime, to the point where 50% of Democratic voters believe this is a genocide. This is a major problem for Joe Biden's re-election campaign, and this is just however you feel about the issue.
There's no doubt.
There's no doubt that they
Gong show.
have turned much of the world away from them, and I'm just not seeing any evidence that because some rockets that got shot down changed that.
Democrats were so pro-Israel before October 7th.
Well, yeah, but that's also a part of an argument. Let me ask you though, Deborah.
Much more so.
The scenes that we've been seeing in America in the last 48 hours, these concerted protests on major bridges around America, right through New York and Washington and so on. We've been seeing people in Michigan chanting "Death to America," pro-Hamas slogans being chanted and so on. What do you make of this?
I think it's absolutely hurting. One, I think it's just obviously disgusting to harm regular everyday civilians. The people that are on the bridge just trying to get to work, to the airport, their kids to doctor's appointments, they have nothing to do with the war that's going on in the Middle East. They have no way to affect it. You're not going to change their mind by making them miss a flight or anything like that. And I think it's really hurting their cause, that they're inconveniencing people. We've seen this for months, the Christmas tree lighting, the Thanksgiving Day parade, anything that would bring joy to Americans. It seems like they want to protest to disrupt it, and that's not.
She sounds like a disruptive agent. Like again, I think both of them are. I think both of them are paid mouthpieces. But did he say that that's what they were?
Not going to make Americans more favorable. And personally, I live in Manhattan. I've seen many of the protests, and I've heard them chanting, "We want another intifada." Even claiming things like that, that's not getting anybody to support you. That is not helping you separate yourselves from people you accuse of committing a genocide, which is a lie in and of itself. I think that it's really harming their cause. And Americans, at least the people in New York, are very fed up with this. Stop making our lives inconvenient. You have a freedom to protest. You don't have a freedom to block traffic and ruin people's lives that are just trying to get on with their day.
Okay, Nadine, you've been on a lot of these protests. Hang on one sec, Alec, I'll come to you. But Nadine, you've been on these protests, including yesterday. When I hear people chanting death to America in the heart of America, that sends a shudder down my spine. I'm not even American. And we're seeing similar things happening in the United Kingdom.
Well, if you don't let it happen, you're Islamophobic, right?
I believe passionately in peaceful protest, no doubt about that at all. But when I see what's been going on with sections, and they're sections, it's not the whole protest crowds, it's unnerving to see this kind of hatred for America from people living here.
Well, I'd just like to start off by saying that the protests have still been peaceful. You know, phrases and actions that have been taken at the protests haven't actually been violent. They haven't harmed.
Stop the cop. All right. Okay, we'll continue for a bit and then we'll stop. We'll stop after her point here.
Anyone, and I don't think we should focus.
What do you think about people chanting death to America, as they did in one video clip?
I think that that's just a phrase maybe said by an individual.
Well, no, the whole crowd began joining in.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. So this guy said it, and then the whole crowd began chanting it. What would you condemn that?
I'm here to talk about the entire.
Nice pivot. Yeah, very nice.
Hang on, you're here to answer my questions, actually. Would you condemn what they were chanting, death to America?
I think we should condemn Palestinians actually being killed.
Okay.
I think that...
That's not the question I'm asking you. So I will ask you about Gaza. But on the question I asked you, would you condemn people in America chanting death to America? What do you say?
I don't condemn how people choose to express their rage verbally. I don't condemn that, because at the end of the day, the reason they're saying that is because the U.S. is sending the tax dollars and the weapons that are actually creating death.
Do you support them chanting death to America?
I don't chant that myself, so I don't know why you're trying to trap me in this type of
I'm asking you to
argument.
condemn it. You don't want to. So I'm asking, do you therefore, should I assume you support them chanting?
Those aren't the chants that I would personally do myself.
You must either hang on. Sorry. I just want an opinion on this. You must surely either condemn it or support it.
No, you don't need to.
You're neutral
it's
and
not
death
a
to America.
binary
That's
thing.
terrifying.
How would anyone do you think, if they went to Gaza and chanted death to Palestine?
Gotcha.
With Hamas terrorists nearby.
I don't understand these hypotheticals. There's actual
because they're very lucky. They're very lucky to be doing.
There's a context that you're removing.
I'm going to explain the context. They are doing this in a country where they're very fortunate, where freedom of speech is not just tolerated, but encouraged. If you tried to do death to Palestine as a chant with a crowd in the middle of Gaza with Hamas people nearby, I suspect you would...
You're disappearing.
...be killed pretty quickly.
Are you saying that people who chant death to America should be killed in the U.S. or should they be able to express their freedom of speech?
I'm saying
First Amendment right.
Well, I don't think saying death to America is a free speech.
It is freedom of speech, but it's listen, Piers.
Alec, I'll come to you 1 second.
I'll be very quick with this, but I'm just going to say I hate to jump over to the other side of this issue now, but I've just seen this so many times on your show when you have someone who I agree with. By the way, I'm totally against this war by Israel. I think they should just stop it. I think the treatment
by Israel, by Hamas.
Okay. Anyway.
Facts matter.
Yeah, the fact is Israel's doing this to Gaza right now, and that's what I'm describing.
I
was literally trying to agree with you about something.
Just let me get facts straight. Just stay.
All right,
I'm not denying that October 7th happened. I'm saying right now. Right now is okay. Anyway, right now Israel is fighting this war. I think their treatment of the Palestinians since before the state of Israel has been totally inexcusable. But I see this on your show all the time, where you'll be asking someone who I agree with, like you broadly on this topic, do you condemn this? And everybody's always running away from it. And I think it just makes makes their argument so much weaker.
I completely agree with you.
Absolutely. Stop chanting death to America. Stop blocking streets.
Yes.
Stop referring to Hamas as freedom fighters. You are doing such a disservice to the people you're trying to advocate for.
I totally agree.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, these
and people always think
they couldn't be doing
people
a better
like Nadine
job.
always then, with respect to you, but you always say things like, "You're trying to trap me." No, I'm not. I'm just literally asking
What
you
happens
to condemn something that any normal, rational, humane person
now, it is,
would
by the way,
instinctively just condemn.
It is freedom of speech. I mean, in America, you have the right to say whatever you want.
Yeah.
But it's a stupid thing to say. It's a wrong thing to say.
Yeah.
You can condemn October 7th. You can condemn Hamas.
Yes.
You can condemn these excesses and still say, I think what Israel's doing to the Palestinian people is wrong and they ought to stop it.
I have
And I wish
plenty.
more
I have
people on my
plenty that
side would.
Yes, I'm happy to condemn plenty of things on both sides.
Okay. I liked how crazy this one got. All right. Let me know in the comments if you enjoy this kind of stuff. Maybe it's too political for my sort of channel, but you know, for a change of pace, just let me know. If you don't like it, it's okay. I'll switch to something else. But anyway, hit the like, hit the sub, hit all notifications, drop me a donation. Like Hunter M, Adrian L, Tom and Bobby, Dylan, Renaissance Press, Brian, Andrew, and Alan. Shout out to you, most recent purchaser of Strategist Guide to Seduction. Thank you. Go buy my books at bit.ly/heliosbooks. Want to watch my videos in like 3 or 4 hours instead of 1 per day? You can. Just go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/theheliosblog. Want me to give you better advice than, well, I don't know if I could give you better advice than Piers. Probably could, to be honest. It's a shit in some situations. But anyway, I digress. Message me at my email. That's theheliosblog@gmail.com. I do offer coaching services. Thank you so much for listening, guys, especially if you listen to the end. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.